What? You were both gonna say something.
I was gonna start off. Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, Chris.
And this is Adrian with the Horror Academy podcast. We're bringing to you today another episode.
Awesome. And today we got a bit of a treat. At least we think so. I've been wanting to do this for a while now. This is the found footage episode.
Yes.
Where we're going to talk about some found footage and films, and you just kind of talk about how it's like just how it started and how like the perception of it was back then to how it is now, and we'll go from there. But for those of you who don't know, found footage film is exactly what you think, how it sounds. It's just a piece of footage or a film that's made to look like it was recovered after certain events. This normally applies to horror, but there have been other films who have adopted the style. But normally it is horror who does this. It pays off really well. Is there anything that you like about found footage stuff?
I absolutely love found footage films. The first one I ever saw happened to be Blair Witch, which we'll end up talking about here in a moment. But yeah, man, it's its own thing in the horror realm. I think people have a love and hate relationship with it just because there's been so many gems that have been produced throughout the years, and some not so much.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel towards them. I personally love them. I'm always on the hunt for the next awesome found footage film I can find.
Oh hell yeah, dude! I'm like, I go on Netflix, and when I try to watch horror films, like I want to find like a found footage film, but it's so hard, dude, because like you'll most likely find something that's shit,
Yeah.
as opposed to not. But it's hard to find them. You find new ones anyway, but we'll be hopefully getting some new ones here soon.
And I definitely think the excuse me. What I think people love about these films is how it doesn't take much acting. These people are acting pretty normal, how everyday people behave.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome because you can kind of get a sense for how it would be if you were in that situation.
Yeah.
Like, these are just friends usually, just encountering something terrible that happens to them. But for the most part, it's just really, the acting is not really like, what I want to say, Hollywood.
Hollywood, right.
Yeah.
It's so genuine. Like, I'm watching these films and I'm like, damn, like, how are they, like, I'm just wondering, like behind the scenes kind of stuff, like, these guys, like, how are they so genuine? You know what I mean? Because it's still acting.
Oh, definitely.
But it's like, how are they pulling it off in ways that other films don't? You know what I mean?
It definitely. It's like very natural.
Yeah, it's just super authentic, which is why I love watching them, because their fear it like gets to you. It's very like, oh shit, and you're placed like in front, like like a front row seat to like all the shit that's going on. So it just kind of gets to you even more. But that's something that I always kind of admired, was like how like genuine and good the acting is.
Yeah, definitely.
Ultimately. So this style really kind of blew up after the Blair Witch Project, which, I mean, respectively enough, of course. But of course, it's not the first film to use this. I think it was Cannibal Holocaust that had been one of the first to do it back in like the 1970s. But there was other films who did it as well, but they weren't horror. They were just like they were kind of documentaries.
Yeah.
But they took it a different style,
Right,
to make it almost found footage. But something interesting though, that this type of storytelling actually started with literature. So this author, H.P. Lovecraft, who does like mainly like horror type stories, what he did was he did these like found manuscripts, and like I think he has a story called Dracula, where he used like newspaper articles and diaries and stuff to make it look like like he was doing research and like something happened to him, something tragic maybe happened to him, and then someone just found all of his notes and stuff like that. So that found footage type of thing first started with like literature, with storytelling and all that. But yeah, I mean, this style was actually, like I mentioned earlier, it was more inspired by documentaries.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see that because it's like, it's very like personal. People acknowledge the camera, they acknowledge the person who's filming and stuff like that. So you can definitely kind of see just kind of how that translated or how that moved from documentaries to this style of horror, which I fucking love, dude. It's so great.
No, absolutely, dude.
But before we get into the Blair Witch Project, I kind of want to talk about Cloverfield, because the Blair Witch is something like it's gonna need its own little slot. But Cloverfield, dude, like when was that? What was that like? 2008, I think.
Dude. When it was so cryptic too, like before it came out.
Yeah.
Like, it was this big mystery. People didn't know what they were going in for.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I had no clue. I ended up watching a bootleg version and just fell in love with this movie.
Yeah.
It was just panic throughout.
Right.
It was, I guess, it's not necessarily a horror film, but I feel like horror has adopted Cloverfield as horror just because the creatures and these people are getting picked off, throughout.
Not to mention like the little spider things, that
dude.
tunnel scene.
Oh, that tunnel scene, yeah.
Like it's straight up. It's not. It just jumps at you because it's just this tunnel. They're in the pitch darkness of this subway tunnel, and they find these fucking creatures like following them. So that just kind of like spooks everybody, which kind of that just kind of gives it that edge to be technically a horror film.
Yeah, definitely. And what I loved about this film, first of all, it's not my favorite found footage film, but I believe it's the greatest found footage film ever made.
Yeah,
but it's not my favorite.
Right,
that
right.
makes sense.
No, I can.
I just think a movie, as a whole movie in its own, it's just a really, really fantastic film. Mm-hmm. Start to finish, the cast is wonderful, and the effects were actually pretty impressive.
They were good, dude. They were really good. I mean, they did have a budget of $25 million. They grossed worldwide over $170 million. So those numbers kind of speak for themselves, like the effects, the acting, and just their overall success. So it really was kind of blew it out of the water. I think a lot of people really liked it, just because it kind of gave that feeling like, give me 1 second here. It kind of gave that feeling like, what if something like that happened? You know what I mean? But I remember watching the special, or not the special effects, the special features, and people like legit thought that the movie was called Cheese. Yeah, cheese. Like there was they did like the special features. They were filming T.J. Miller, who plays HUD in the film, and like there's like a bunch of people like behind the barricade of where they're filming. And they're like, "Hey guys, name the title of this movie in 1, 2, 3." And everyone's like, "Cheese!" And these people think it's called Cheese. It was funny as fuck.
No one knew.
No one knew much about it. But it was directed by Matt Reeves and produced by J.J. Abrams, of course.
Genius.
Yeah.
That dude's a genius.
It's got Michael Stahl David as Rob, who's leaving to Japan to work for this for his company. Like his company is moving him out there. It's got Jessica Lucas as Lily Ford, Lizzie Kaplan, gorgeous Lizzie Kaplan as
love her, man. Love her.
Yeah, dude. As Marlena Diamond, and like I mentioned before, T.J. Miller as HUD. I mean, there's just, I don't know, dude. When I first watched it, like it was, I mean, I loved it, dude. I can't say anything enough about it. It made you just want to know what the hell it was. You know what I mean? And I remember like J.J. Abrams was saying like he wanted, I guess he went to Japan and he saw like how they had a lot of like Godzilla things, like merchandise, and he's like, I kind of want to have America to have its own Godzilla. So he kind of created this thing I don't know what he planned to really do on it because there's no name for this creature. There's not much information given about this creature, but that's kind of his inspiration
Yeah.
for making this film, which is interesting enough. But there's just so many questions left, at the end of this film.
Yeah, it kind of made you wonder, like, because at the end, ultimately, we wanted to know: is it an alien? Is it a sea monster?
Right.
What is it?
And how did it get there?
And just ultimately, and I loved how, like, in the beginning of the movie, they kind of just played on, or they focused on the individual problems that the cast was having. The characters they had their
like
drama and
right, like Robin. Oh gosh, Robin, his girlfriend, I forget her name, Elizabeth, I think, and they broke up, but they had slept together like a week ago or something. So there's still some romance,
and it kind of, and honestly, I love that. It made you care.
Yeah,
it made you invest emotion and thought to these characters, which ultimately paid off because once the movie went on and the terror struck, you cared whether they lived or died. And I love that because usually when it's like a big monster movie, just people die left and right, and you don't really care for.
You don't really care for it, like because in the film, Rob has a brother. Do you remember his name?
I forget. The one that dies on the bridge, right?
Yeah, I think Ethan. Right? No, I don't think so.
I can't even remember his name.
Forget his name. Damn, we suck at this. But there was this because you in the party scene, which takes it's not quick. The party scene is like pretty extended, so you get to be introduced to the characters, the situations and stuff, and you get to see like the relationship between these brothers. And when the brother dies on the bridge, like this huge ass tentacle just slams down on him, and they like escape. They go to the subway tunnel or the station, and there's that good amount of time where they're like grieving, they're in shock.
Yeah.
And a lot of films don't take that time. They're like, yo, for other films, they're like, hey, our friend, our family or something.
Oh, my mom just died.
Our mom just died.
And zero emotion.
Zero
just
emotion. Go on. And it's like, okay, I'd be sad if like someone I knew died that I cared about. Like, what are you guys doing?
They just have that initial like, no.
Yeah.
But then not a single tear. They just move on.
Right.
And I get it. I mean, honestly, for survival, that's probably the best thing to do is to not stop. But humans are going to react to what happens to their loved ones.
Yeah.
And I love that they were able to show some of that.
Yeah, because like you said, when you're in a situation of survival, it's like, I gotta grieve, but now's not the time to do it.
Right.
But the movie gave them time to do it.
Right.
The movie gave them time to show emotion and to have the audience be like, oh, fuck, dude, like, damn. Like, you kind of just feel it, like, we're not going to see this character anymore, and these characters are heartbroken. Like, it's not just his brother who's grieving, but it's his fiance who's grieving, and that just makes it even worse. It's like, they were gonna get married, dude.
Yep.
And, like, now they're not. Like, it's just all this shit happened. And it's just really... I don't know, it makes you invested in the characters, and like I mentioned in a previous episode, like, characterization is everything. Like, if you don't have that, then you don't have a story. So I think they played it really well. The film, though, or the series anyway, like, just kind of spawned these other two films that are connected but not connected, and it's so frustrating because I wanted 10 Cloverfield Lane to be a sequel, but then it wasn't. And then Cloverfield Paradox came out, and I actually liked that. Like, I liked how there was a lot of, like, the idea behind it, like interdimensional traveling and stuff like that, and like the multiverse. So that was interesting, but I hated how they weren't intertwined with each other. But that's this huge conspiracy and theories and all that shit that we're not gonna get into.
Yeah,
look it up on YouTube. There's a lot of videos on that. But Cloverfield, though, was really great. I thoroughly enjoyed it, dude.
absolutely.
Yeah. And like at the end of the film, so like when it was just Rob and his girlfriend Elizabeth and HUD, they were on a helicopter, and then this monster just kind of like hits it, and they start spiraling out of control, and they crash land. And I thought it was just interesting because they climb out of the helicopter, and apparently it's just them. It's just the three of them that survived. And so Elizabeth is holding on to Rob, and then HUD on the other side, and they're like kind of dragging him away, like kind of limping away. And HUD's like, "Oh, hey." So before that, so they're limping away, and at the top of the like you can see the sky, and there's like these jet fighters just kind of going their direction, like going the way that they're going. And then HUD, like, he's like, "Oh shit, like the camera, I forgot the camera, let me go get it." So he goes and gets it, and then the other two are like HUD, like, watch out. And then the monster's on top of him. And I'm like, you guys didn't see this thing coming?
It's the size of a skyscraper. This thing is giant.
Yeah.
You can't hear it. You can't hear the ground rumbling.
Right.
Like, obviously, he was already pretty near when you guys were climbing out of the helicopter.
Yeah.
You guys just happened to, oh, no. I'm not looking at that right now. Like, oh, by the way, the helicopter crash scene, I thought had amazing acting. TJ, when he was just like, oh Jesus, like that was so real to me, because I feel like that would be me,
right, dude?
If I was in a helicopter that was crashing, that would be me, dude.
Yeah,
I'd just be begging for my life.
Like your body is so tense, dude.
And you're just like seeing everything happen, and you feel like you're just about to die, and you know it.
And like what's sad, because when the helicopter was flying down, he's seeing like just like praying to God and everything. At one point, he's like, "Rob, help me," and it's like, dude, no one can help you. Like I get that it's just like a thing of the moment, but it's like, Rob, help me.
No God,
no God.
It is not.
But so when he goes and picks up the camera, they see this monster, and the thing that I'm wondering is, like, earlier you see the jet fighters like going the opposite way, right. And I'm like, where are you guys going? Are you guys like making a turnaround? Because like the fight's not over there. Yeah. It's like behind you now. So after that, the monster doesn't even look at him at first. He's like, he looks up at the monster, and it's like under his chin, and it's just breathing. Like it's for like maybe 15 seconds, and he's like I guess he's just petrified.
Yeah. And
then it looks down on him, and then it eats him. And that whole, like, when he falls down, like, is so disorienting, because you see the grass where he, like, below, you see the grass, and then like the camera hits it, and then it's just more tumbling. So it's like, what happened when you know what I mean? Like it hits the grass, and does it just like jump up, and what the fuck happened there? So it's really disorienting. And then afterwards, they go into Rob and his girlfriend. They go into the bridge. They say their last, words, and the tunnel, like all of Manhattan gets blown up, and they presumably die. And I've seen videos where people are saying, like, at some point you hear someone say it's still alive, and suggesting that the monster didn't die at the explosion. But I tried watching it again, or I did watch it, but I tried catching that.
I actually caught it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
When was that?
The ending credits.
The ending credits?
Yeah, I actually caught it.
Damn, I tried finding that, but
yeah, dude, the scene when HUD dies, by the way, it messed me up.
Did it really?
I loved him the most out of all of them, and then he gets bitten in half by this creature.
Dude, oh my gosh.
It was disturbing, but yeah, all in all, man, this movie is great, man.
Yeah, I thought it was great. But yeah, it just kind of left me wondering, like, damn, imagine that would happen. You know what I mean? That's just nuts. Oh. Switching gears here, though, we're going to go ahead and talk about the Blair Witch Project.
Ooh, hell yeah.
So there's a lot that I have here for the Blair Witch Project. We'll also talk about the sequel here in just a minute. But the Blair Witch Project. Now, found footage films tend to be on the low budget side. Cloverfield wasn't one of them, because they were it was made by J.J. Abrams and his company Bad Robot, so you can imagine that they had a lot of money there. But the Blair Witch Project had their budget like jumped around a lot. I think they originally started with $25,000, but then they kept getting picked up by different like companies and stuff like that. So normally it was like the director said it was like 500,000 to about 7,500,000 for the budget, but then it grossed worldwide. It was $248.6 million. So it definitely blew it out of the water. It made its money back. It just kind of gave found footage style horror a new name.
I would use $100 bills as tissue if I was that rich.
Throw it away. Yeah. But this was, and more impressive is just that it was filmed in 1999, back before all the shit we know today. So it was really interesting to see, and it was dope, dude. It was directed by, who was the director? It was written and directed by Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez, who were like classmates in college, I think, and they played it at some film festival, I believe, and when it started picking up traction, when it started performing better than expected, the movie kind of went up the ranks to to compete with Hollywood films. And so I guess they didn't have control over like where it would go. So they just kind of stuck with the ride, and they're like, yo, this film is not ready to go up against like theatric releases and Hollywood films. So I don't know what you guys are doing, but don't, they're kind of like, hey, this isn't made for that. But it became a cult classic, dude.
Absolutely.
I think when we were kids, you introduced me to this film, dude.
Yeah, I remember.
I think so.
I remember.
Yeah. How did you like it, dude? What was your first impression of this?
Well, I first heard the hype from Frankie.
Yeah.
Yeah, my cousin Frankie. He had watched it and told me about it. This was a time frame in which some people still believed it had been real.
Yeah.
You couldn't just do a quick Google search to see if the movie
was... back in the days,
right.
You couldn't just...
Back then, you actually had to do some research to verify if it was real or not. And a lot of people at that point still did think that it was real. But, dude, when I first watched it, I was honestly terrified.
Tell me about it, dude.
And the thing is, nothing really happens. It's just the fact of what they went through and how it ends, and just knowing that it was the witch doing this without even seeing her. It was absolutely terrifying, especially since I honestly believe in crazy shit like that. So just watching something like this with the cast being so genuine in their acting and just the fear just looks so real to me. And dude, I loved every bit of it, man. It was a great film, and I loved what it did to the horror world. It shook everything and just kind of blew up. You know what I mean?
I know, man. I know what you mean. Like you said, there wasn't a whole lot done in the film. There wasn't a whole lot of crazy shit that happened. Just eerie bits of things here and there, like the stick figures and stuff like that, and the rocks, and also them going around in circles. So there wasn't a whole lot of like jump scares or anything really terrifying. But I think the film really... So what they did, what I think they did well was the whole making it look authentic with the characters and everything.
Absolutely.
So when you see these characters, you kind of start relating to them. They kind of they seem like real, normal people. So when they start kind of experiencing like kind of creepy shit, and most importantly, when they get lost in the woods, that kind of strikes a chord with people. They're like, absolutely. Oh, fuck.
That's one of the biggest fears people have. It's one of my biggest fears.
Yeah. Being
lost in wilderness is absolutely horrifying. And then not only is it scary because of nature itself, but you have a witch.
Oh, God, dude.
Hell no, dude.
Hell no, dude. Hell no. So, yeah, I mean, I think the whole... like everything that they did though, I think was like planted carefully with like little hints that they're being watched and followed. I think it steers into the ultimate climax, which is that final scene. So that just that steady pace,
Yeah,
that steady pace of how the film went, kind of led to this ultimate finale, which was pulled off incredibly because now everything just came to a boiling point. But the script, the whole movie that we saw, this script wasn't really a script. It was an outline of the whole movie. It was like 35 pages. And pretty much what they wanted to do was the directors wanted to. They didn't write any lines. They made the characters or the actors just improvise their lines to give it that more authentic look. So that was like, oh shit, like that was a good technique. It was interesting though, but here's something that I learned though. They had the audition process was unorthodox to say the least. They put up an ad like on a newspaper or something, which read, "An improvised feature film shot in wooded location. It is going to be hell, and most of you reading this probably shouldn't come." That's what they wrote for the ad. And the lead actress Heather, she read this ad and I guess she was like, "All right, let's do it." So she went, and also what made everyone think another thing that made everyone believe that this was real, that these people died, was that they were all named the same thing. Like Heather Donahue was Heather in the film. Like who else was it? Joshua Leonard was Joshua Leonard in the film. Yeah. So they were using their real names. They were themselves in the film, and so a lot of people kind of believe like, oh shit, this is real. And also the directors kind of told them like, hey, don't kind of stay away from the press. Let people believe that you're actually dead. And Heather's mom actually got letters of condolences. Like, I'm so sorry to hear about your loss.
Dude, people thought it was legit, man.
Yeah.
That's how well they pulled this shit off.
Yeah, man.
That's insane, dude.
And I don't know what... so Artisan Films picked it up at the end. And I think it was them, but they... like, after the success of this first one, they were like, yo, let's make another one. Let's do it right now. It's fucking money. Let's do it. And the directors, I guess they didn't want to do something right away. So the company just decided to go on without them. And they made the just god-awful Book of Shadows.
Don't you dare watch that film. You guys, don't. This was such a disgrace to... and kind of just spitting in the face of the original film.
Yeah.
How can you possibly go from the Blair Witch Project to the shit sequel that they came out with? I just couldn't take it anymore. It was insane. Insane.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, it sucked ass because I mean it was just super low budget. I mean, it's not even that because the Blair Witch Project was low budget, but it was just terrible.
The acting was terrible.
The acting was terrible, dude. It sucks because I now realize that I think the lead character is Jeffrey Donovan, who I actually liked watching him in Burn Notice, one of my favorite shows back in the day. So it was kind of heartbreaking to see that he was in it. And this film, dude, when I first watched it, I was a kid, and it wasn't through my own doing. This was... oh, fuck, dude. This was... back when I was a kid, I was with my dad, and my dad had Sky Television. Sky, like it's a cable service. It's called Sky, and they mostly cater to Mexicans, to Spanish families. So everything was in Spanish. TNT and like TBS, everything was in Spanish. So we watched this on TNT, and it was like they watched it, dude. they watched this, and I watched it too, but I thought it was. I was a kid, so I didn't really think too much of it. I'm like, oh, this is nuts. This sucks for these people. So I didn't really think too much of it. But like my dad was an adult. It's like, dude, you're watching this. Like, you're putting this on, and you're like, yeah, it's fine. Like, don't do that. Like, why?
When I watched this movie, this was when Blockbuster was shutting down, and me and Alex, my buddy Alex, we were young at the time. It was summer break. There was one of the Blockbusters nearby was shutting down, and they were selling all of their films for 50 cents or $1.
Yeah.
So we went and we got like 25 or 30 horror films, dude.
Holy shit.
Yeah, we got a grip of them, and we got a bunch of shit movies, a bunch of good movies. It didn't matter. They were mad cheap, so we decided to get them.
Yeah.
And we got like Session 9, we got Freddy vs. Jason, all these like cool little films. And then we ended up choosing to watch the sequel to Blair Witch Project first. And we got maybe halfway. We're sitting there eating our pizza rolls, and we're like, nah, taking this off. So that's the only time I've ever attempted to watch it.
Yeah.
And never again will I ever attempt to watch it.
Never, dude. Never. It was a disgrace. But I don't know what happened recently though. They made a better sequel, which was, thank God for that.
Blair Witch.
But there have been talks. I don't know what happened because this was in such a short span of time. But there was talks about doing a prequel for the film that was set in or supposed to be set in the 1700s, just to kind of explain like the origins of the witch and all that. I don't know what exactly went down, but I guess like the directors and the company just didn't want to do it, or it just kind of fell through completely. So that never came to pass. However, the back in what was it, 2016, they did Lionsgate picked up the film for the Blair Witch, the sequel. And this one kind of took a different direction. So it was directed by Adam Wingard, and it was written by Simon Beret, I think. And so pretty much like what happened is that the Lionsgate wanted to make this film a found footage film. But the original directors, Myrick and Sanchez, they didn't want to do that style of filmmaking. Like they did it for the first one, and they're like, okay, we don't want to do this again. Like, we just want to explore other things. And so Lionsgate was like, well, no, we want it this way. So they kind of pulled away, and Lionsgate got other people to film it. But it is in relation to the first film. So it kind of picks up like 20 years?
Yeah, or something like that.
10 years, I think.
The brother of Heather.
Right, and so this, after the success of the first one and it being picked up by Lionsgate, had a budget of $5 million and it grossed over $45 million, which is pretty dope. And so this one has James Allen McCune as James and Callie Hernandez as Lisa. And it just kind of follows this brother of Heather who is trying to find out what happened, like trying to get answers and look for her. What did you think of the film, though?
This is honestly has become one of my favorite horror movies ever. A lot of people, I feel like a lot of people trashed that movie.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand why. It was a found footage film, and it showed more than the original Blair Witch. And I thought what it showed was actually terrifying. Let alone, just think about, okay, so the acting.
Yeah.
Was phenomenal. Especially, what's her name, Lisa?
Yeah.
Her acting in the last 10 minutes of the movie.
Dear hell,
the way she was hyperventilating, the fear in her eyes. That shit felt so real, and she deserves an Oscar for that shit, dude. I'm not even... Dude, the acting in that film was absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
and
man.
it had the shock factor to me, honestly. I was watching it and I was like, holy shit. And man, dude, I love it. I absolutely love this film.
Me too. After I watched, around the time that I watched it, I thought about the first film, and I think I rewatched the first film again, and the first movie just kind of, it was good, but I'm like, I don't know. It's just kind of them just walking through the forest, kind of getting lost, and nothing happens until the end. So after that, I just kind of wanted more. And the Blair Witch, the sequel, it really delivered on that, dude.
Yeah.
It, like you said, like we caught glimpses of the witch, and that tripped me out, dude. That tripped me out. I was like, oh hell no! Like, are you serious right now? And it was. I'm glad it was just glimpses, because anything more would have like.
Yeah, would have. Yeah.
Yeah, but the fact that it was glimpses, and I'm like, oh my god, dude, that thing is crazy looking. And what was it? Oh, there was a point though that I was kind of confused, because the film starts with like a piece of footage from it's supposed to be a piece of footage from the first movie with Heather, and like it shows the camera like running up the stairs, and it looks at the like it passes a mirror, and in the mirror you see like a person, and it, like, I guess it rewinds or something, and it pulls away, and you realize you're watching a computer screen, and it's James, the brother, looking at like a YouTube film or just a piece of clip from Heather's video, and he was like, hey, I think that might be her. And so you're seeing this clip, right? And then at the end of the film, when they're lost in the house, that same footage happens again. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Like, what is that? Like, I don't know. Did they just reuse their same, piece of footage? Or
I have no
it's
idea.
weird. But, so it's James and his friends. Like I said, it was Lisa, Ashley, and Scott, or I'm sorry, Peter, who they all know each other, and then they go out there. They're accompanied by two other people, Lane and some other girl, his girlfriend, Lane's girlfriend. And so they go into the forest, and they immediately become lost, dude, because Lane is supposed to be the guy who knows, right?
Yeah.
And he eventually just like decides to leave. He's like, nah, I can't do this anymore. So he and his girlfriend leave. And so now it's just these four friends who are kind of camping out, and they're getting lost and shit, going around in circles. And dude, like there's a point where they're camping. So they leave their camping spot. They travel for like hours just to come back to the same spot, and they're like, fuck, dude. So they just decide to camp there.
Yep.
Then the next morning they see like the stick figures they hung around them, which is creepy, dude.
Which I was like, oh no, it's starting.
Yeah.
And it happened. It turned out to be Lane, right?
Was it?
Yeah, Lane had made him.
Oh, did he?
Remember they
shit.
found the string in his backpack? And then that's why they like kicked him out of the group. And,
right.
And then once they realized, like later on in the movie, the sun wasn't coming up. It was just
that's right. Oh,
the sun would come up. It was some like Grave Encounter shit.
Yeah.
And then they end up bumping into Lane and his girlfriend again, and only the main group had been lost for hours, but Lane and his girlfriend had been lost for weeks, and they were like, they were acting like they hadn't seen him in forever. Like, yo, like how do we get out of here?
Yeah.
And it was just like this like crazy time lapse,
like warp thing, dude.
Yeah, it was insane. It was obviously the witch causing all of this.
Yeah.
And even with the modern technology they had, they couldn't find a way
escape,
out. Yeah.
Dude. And I think one of the things that freaked me out was when Lane, once he disappears and it's just his girlfriend staying with the rest of the group, something happens where they grabbed I think like a stick figure, and they snap it in half.
Oh, and the girl just folds in half, dude. That was so violent. God. I saw that. I was like, oh my god! I was in the theater. I wanted to rewind it and just
just
play it again. Just watch her just like snap in half.
And like the reactions are so genuine. Like it's like, fuck, you know what I mean? I would freak out. Like, what is this? What are you? Are you okay?
What was awesome is before the movie came out, I had already been really stoked on this movie because the initial trailer had come out and it was called The Woods.
Right.
And I was like, this looks like my kind of shit right here.
Yeah.
And I started posting it all over social media. No one really cared. And then like shortly before its release, hey guys, it's the Blair Witch. And I lost my shit. I was like, no way. We get another Blair Witch movie done right. And I ended up loving it, man.
It was great. Like the poster for The Woods was like you're seeing the like kind of bald trees like kind of like pointing up to the sky. And then once they revealed that it was the Blair Witch, like they brought those trees closer together, and it was it made the stick figure. Yeah. So that was really interesting. I was really stoked to see that, or to realize that when they announced it, and I wanted to do it. But this film like kind of gave you more like just it. I don't know. It gave you more. Like it gave you a little bit more than what the first one did.
And for those of you who didn't like it, guess what? You asked for this.
That's right.
You really did, because a lot of you were pissed. A lot of people didn't like the Blair Witch Project, the original.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, man, it's cool, but nothing happens. And then Blair Witch comes out, 2016.
Right.
Like, nah, I didn't like it either. Well, you got what you asked for,
Yeah.
dude. Like, what do you want?
What do you want? But dude, I loved it, man. It was great. So with the first one, because the first one ended with like them going into the house, and they lost. Who did they lose? Was it Josh that they lost, or Mike?
Okay, I'm trying to remember Heather screaming.
I'm thinking it was Josh.
I think it was Josh.
So they lost.
You can hear him screaming in the distance, and they can't find him.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Mike gets picked off looking for Josh in the room, and they're split. And so when Heather goes down the stairs into the basement, she sees Josh in the corner, and she's just screaming. You don't know what's going on. You just see him standing in the corner, and she's just screaming, and then she just gets knocked over, and the camera falls. The artists in entertainment, they asked the directors to kind of change that ending. They wanted something different, to where it's either Josh hanging by his neck, or something else. And so they filmed those things, but at the end of the day, they stuck to that original ending. And so we see that again in the sequel,
which I loved.
Yeah, it gave it like a reason.
Yeah.
And so it ended up being like James and Lisa are huddled in the corner, and they're like, yo, we're supposed to, not look at the witch. We're supposed to just kind of stay by the corner and don't look at her. Which I don't know how that makes sense, though, because the whole time throughout being in the woods, they don't look at the witch, and she still like comes after them. You know what I mean? So it's like, how is that gonna help you? And what was it? Oh, so we see like them huddled by the corner, and then you hear. Wait, do you hear it or no? Like
you hear Heather.
You hear right. So you hear Heather's voice, and then James kind of like looks over, like he gives to his logic, and he looks over, and he just gets snatched away. And I'm like, what? Where is he? It was nuts. And then that's when Lisa
turns
just
the camera around to look behind her.
Yeah.
And she's trying to walk backwards out of the house. Only the witch is like, I'm gonna get you regardless.
On her ass, dude.
But that last scene of Lisa trying to get away was so just in absolute panic, dude. Just pure fear. And I was at the edge of my seat watching this like, man, this scene is crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's so accurate on how all of us would honestly be that way.
Yeah.
And just trembling, shivering in the cold, and you're about to die, but you're trying not to. Dude.
You're trying not to die?
Yeah, dude. Blair Witch, loved it. And this recently came out. Lionsgate is actually working on a series of Blair Witch.
Oh, I think I heard about that. Yeah. Which would be interesting to watch.
Like, I wonder. I wonder if it's gonna be found footage, or if they're gonna, it's like gonna be an anthology. I don't know.
Right.
I have no clue what they're gonna do with it.
I've heard of shows doing like a found footage style, and I wonder how that I've never seen that. I wonder how that plays out.
How much footage can you find?
A camera can't be turned on for so many seasons. Oh my gosh! But damn, there was something I was gonna say. Blair Witch. No, I completely forgot it. Oh, okay. So she's walking like backwards, using the camera to see behind her, and she's like trying to get out of the house. But I'm thinking that's like, yeah, that's interesting. Like, of course you got to do that. But what are you gonna do after? What are you gonna do when you get out of the house?
Yeah,
like, are you gonna walk backwards through the whole woods? You're gonna be lost.
You're gonna die regardless. The sun doesn't come up,
right? And she's not letting you go.
Yeah.
So, but another thing though that I always thought of was, so these people, once they get in range, all this shit starts happening, and so they bring a camera, and of course they die, and the camera gets lost there or gets left there, and so it's found footage. So it's like. How did they get that footage? How did they go? Like, sure, they'll have a search team, but nothing happens to that search team. They're just like, oh, hey, let's go into this house, see if they're in there. And it's like, that's the witch's house. Like, she's not gonna do anything to you. It's nuts.
But yeah, man, Blair Witch. If you haven't seen the new one, guys, I definitely suggest watching it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, let's shift gears here.
Let's just shift gears.
shift gears here.
So this next film, As Above, So Below, reminds me a little bit of the Blair Witch.
Actually, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's dude, I fucking love this film, man. It really kind of went up above my expectations. And I loved it, dude. I thought it was great. So, As Above, So Below, if you guys haven't seen it, definitely watch that. This one had a budget of $5 million, and it grossed $21 million here in the US. It was directed by John Eric Dowdle, and written by him and I think his brother, Drew Dowdle. So, the film kind of follows this girl, Scarlett, played by Perdita Weeks. That's her name, dude. Perdita, like Lost.
But yeah, dude.
And
Archaeologist Scarlett Malo.
Right.
I always remember that line for some reason, or like when they were marketing the movie, like at the end when it shows the title, just the guy saying "As above, so below."
Oh, right. And I don't know why, but it definitely reminds me of the Blair Witch because it's in the same. It's follows this group in a dark environment, unable to escape, and they're being picked off. So it's just really interesting. But it follows Scarlett trying to find this, like,
one of the greatest treasures in history.
Yeah. Yes. This is this artifact, and she's with
Flamel's Philosopher's Stone is what it was. She was looking for.
Right. And she's followed with her friend George, played by Ben Feldman, and like they kind of have like a thing. You can tell, but I like the setup because in the first act you kind of see her. First, you see her going into this cave in a different part of the world, and she's like looking into to this artifact, like this bowl-looking thing.
Yeah, very Brendan Fraser, the mummy-ish.
Very Brendan Fraser, dude. And it's like minutes before they're gonna blow it all up. So she finds this thing, and then she later goes and finds her friend George, and she's like trying to recruit him on this like little mission. And he's kind of giving some backstory. He's like, no, remember what happened last time, and this and that. And they just kind of set up the characters. Like, you can tell that she's very determined and very adventurous and a risk taker as well. So you kind of get a bit of a feel of her. And George is much more of like the careful, like,
Maybe not.
Yeah, like the voice of reason for
Yeah,
Scarlet.
yeah.
So you kind of get to know these people a little bit more, and it follows like so they end up recruiting a couple other people. So she has the cameraman, what's his name, Benji, played by Edwin Hodge, and so the three of them they try to find this entrance to the catacombs, the Paris catacombs, and they find this guy Papillon, fucking don't know, played by Francois Seville, and so they gear up and they go into the catacombs.
Which, by the way, don't go into the catacombs.
Don't go.
Guess what? They're the catacombs.
Right. But dude, so I remember watching this, and there's a scene where they're introducing the catacombs. They're in the little tour guide thing, and they see this guy kind of just sitting there randomly, and he's telling them something. I forget what it is, but he's telling them
Then he disappears, right?
Yeah, then he disappears. He's like the thing that this catacomb manifests, dude. He's like a ghost.
Yep.
He was a ghost the whole time, and it freaked me out when I learned it. So they go into these catacombs, and they're trying to find this artifact. And you see them getting deeper and deeper, trying to find this thing. And it's like this red stone looking thing.
Yeah, it's supposed to grant eternal life.
Eternal life, yeah, dude.
What was crazy about it is when they end up accepting the fact that, hey, we're lost. What was tripping me out is that everywhere they went happened to go deeper and further. That's the thing, dude. See, with me, first of all, I wouldn't have fit in most of those crevices.
No.
By the way, or those holes. But you're trying to get out, and the only option is to go deeper and further. No, thank you. That is terrifying, dude.
Yeah,
and
dude.
it's so claustrophobic, and you're underground. No one knows where you are.
Right.
So this is worst case scenario, and these people face literally their personal hells.
Yeah, dude. They actually each one of them were confronted by their own sins or wrongdoings and stuff. But I remember when I was watching it, they were before the shit went south. They were going through the tunnels, and I was watching it. I watched it in the theaters, and this was in the morning time, so there was maybe 2 or 3 other people, which was the best time to go to the movies. And I was watching this, and I'm like, damn, I can't imagine being there and being like, all right, guys, I'm out. I quit. I just kind of want to get up and get out. You know what I mean? It's just you can't do that.
You can't just walk up and leave. You're in it for the long haul. You can't do anything about it.
Right. You can't just get out of that place. And I remember, dude, when they were going deeper, I had this feeling in my stomach that resembled me needing to take a shit, because I was super uncomfortable. I was grabbing the armrests, okay, I gotta go to the bathroom. I just gotta go and take a shit, but I don't want to leave because I don't leave movie theaters while the movie is playing
Ever.
No, I'd never like to do that. So I'm like, oh god, you know what I mean? And I realized I was getting claustrophobic, dude. It's getting really, really tight in there. I'm like, no, I can't fucking do this. Eventually I, was able to watch it comfortably, but that whole time I'm like, fuck, dude, I felt really caved in. And I don't know if that was the intention of the film, or it was
honestly, I think they played on that. I think they knew it would make a lot of people uncomfortable because it's a common fear, to be stuck somewhere we can't get out of, very claustrophobic atmosphere. And
yeah.
I think it was awesome the way they pulled it off. It definitely made you feel trapped with the cast.
Right, exactly. So you can just feel like there's no escape. And so once they get this stone, man, everything happens. There's so much behind the stuff that you see that's going on, because once they get the stone, like there's this whole like mythology behind stone and like where they are and stuff. So they start accepting, or they start experiencing their own sins and wrongdoings, and pretty much what they have to do to survive is accept it. They have to be like, accepting like, hey, I did this wrong thing, and I'm sorry. And when we see this is Papillon, at one point they find this car. It's on fire or something. Yeah, they find this car, and inside the car is like one of his friends. And apparently he, before in the days, he got in a car crash or something, and the car went up in flames, and he lost his friend or something. Someone that he loved was in the car, and he didn't save him. So when he's watching this in front of him again, he didn't accept it. He wasn't like, it was my fault, I'm sorry. He said, I tried. He said something else. He just didn't take responsibility for it, and that's when you see him like getting dragged towards it, and they're all like grabbing him, like no, like you don't, like they're just freaking out because nothing is taking him. It's just this force pulling him, so they're trying to grab him away, but eventually he gets sucked into this car where only his feet are sticking out of the ground, and that means something. I forgot what it was, but there's some thing in mythology where his two legs sticking out is actually like a symbol of something, but I'm sorry, I don't know what it really is. And so that's pretty much what they all have to do. They all have to accept that their responsibilities. And there was this scene, dude. Fuck. Do you remember when they meet their friend who like supposedly disappeared?
Oh, the dude that's been missing for like ever.
Yeah.
And he's just like very like whatever. He's like our friend Javi.
Yeah.
Javi, if you're listening to this, yep.
Yeah. So they find this guy and he's just like yo, like where have you been? Like you've been missing for so long. Yeah, it's okay, guys. Like I'm okay. Yeah. Hey, come! I got something to show you. He's just very like,
and then like every time they turn a corner, he's like way further than like, this dude's like something else. Like at this point, like he's even if he got out, like you're just the weirdest person ever to live at this point. But yeah, dude, like he would like make like when they would turn corners, he would be walking normal same pace, but he would end up way further.
He'd be further,
and it kind of forcing them to run after him because they thought he was just taking him out of there,
Yeah.
But he ended up taking him deeper and deeper, and
dude, but
horrifying.
The one of the girls that was with Papillon, one of the French girls, her name is Soxy, I think, if that's how you pronounce it. But they're all in this same room, and Papillon or the guy that we're talking about, that weird guy, he's just kind of standing there, like all kind of like a scared child. And when this girl walks up to him, he like grabs her and slams her head down on the stone floor, and like you see like a glimpse of that. But that shit fucked me up, dude. I'm like, what the hell? And that was terrifying, dude.
Dude, absolutely, man. This movie, I always recommend it to people because people always ask me, hey, do you know of any movies you want that we should watch? And I always tell them about this movie, and they seem to not know about it. I'm like, this was a pretty successful movie.
Yeah.
Like, people should know about this, but they end up watching it and loving it. I haven't actually spoken to someone that's not like this film.
Right. I mean, it's a great film. Like, they actually took the time to construct it properly with the plot and storytelling. So I think it really, really did well. Another thing that happened though was so once they realized, eventually was it George, he like gets bitten or something. He gets wounded like pretty bad, and at this point it's just Scarlett, George, and the last like French guy, I forget his name, but they're just kind of like fucked, and there's like cloaked figures like walking around like in their perimeter.
Oh yeah.
Freaks me the fuck out.
Dude, that shit was crazy. There was like, I don't know, I can't tell if those are demons or that was just a cult in there.
That's weird if it was a cult, though. Like,
Yeah.
what are you guys doing in here?
Like, how do you guys live?
Yeah.
You
like,
need sustenance.
right.
But
Gives me the light.
I mean, to me they're demons, but it kind of looked like just a group of people who were in a cult.
That would make sense considering all the shit that went down.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, man, that just to the scene where they made it out, the last two.
Dude, it was actually the
three of them. Yeah, you're right.
That was so weird, dude. So at the end, when she's like, "Okay, this is the way out," and it's like this endless tunnel, or what it seems like to be, she's like, "Guys, we have to accept our wrongdoings," and they all like take turns. And Scarlett was accepting or admitting the fact that I think it was she, like her dad, I think called her. Minutes before he died, there was like an explosion or something in a cave where he died, and he called her and she didn't pick up the phone. So she kind of admitted to like, I'm sorry I didn't pick up the phone, like this and that. And then George's confession was that I think he couldn't save his brother. His brother drowned in a river, and he wasn't able to save him. And then the other guy was saying like his wrongdoing was he has a child but he never met him. Like he like walked out on his family. And so once they accepted their wrongdoings, they jumped down through this tunnel and they hit this floor. And there's a manhole cover in there, like on the bottom of their feet. And so then they move it, but it's so weird. Because they have to push force down on it.
Yeah.
Slide it, and then like they come up on the other side, and like gravity is weird.
Like once they pop up, they're exiting a sewer.
Right.
And it's like it's hard to explain.
It's hard to explain because like you're upside like once they crawl out, they are like. Yeah, I'm not saying
you're doing motions, but no one can see
no one
you.
Can see us.
Anyway,
like think of it like here's the floor, and then gravity is pushing on both sides of that. I think that's the best way I can explain that. And so then they all get out, and now they're fine. They're on the streets and they're fine. And I'm just thinking, like, what if you look down that tunnel? Are you still gonna see that shit? Are you still gonna see
or
like
they're in a dimension?
Right.
Because I'm pretty sure city workers have to go down there at some point.
Right, dude. Unless it's that thing where it's like, no, nobody ever goes down there. Are you serious?
Then how was it built?
How are you guys gonna maintenance that? But I don't know. I would still like, even if I went through all that, I would just kind of look down like, what the fuck did I just come out of?
I'm gonna go back in there.
I'm gonna go back in there. I left my wallet.
I want to go back and go through the whole place that we went through, and then try to make it out on the other side.
Like they're like, hey, we have to go back to like the car or something, and it's like where they started. Like, hey guys, I know of a shortcut. They go through the whole shit again.
Oh man, yeah, guys, watch this movie. Do yourselves a favor. Watch it.
So, do it though. Watch it. We're gonna shift gears now, like in Fast and Furious. We're gonna do some shifting, unnecessary shifting. No, this is actually necessary. So the other film we're gonna talk about here is, if you guys haven't watched it, this is a gem. I absolutely loved it. It was The Houses October Built.
Yes.
Loved it.
Love this movie. It's
currently on Netflix, right?
Yep, that's where I found it. I read it, what it was about, and it resonated with me because it was about a group of people looking for the craziest haunted attraction that was available during the Halloween season.
Yeah, they're trying for the most extreme.
Right, and what made me want to watch it is because for the past 8 or so years now, I've been working at Fear Farm, which is a haunted attraction in Arizona, and I absolutely love that culture of haunted attractions. It's a whole different kind of world as far as horror goes. You're kind of just surrounded by all this horror and props and effects and all these awesome people dressed up, and I love that world, man. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna watch this because, hey, I mean I work in it every year, so might as well see what this is about.
Yeah.
Ended up loving it, absolutely loving
it was a major trip, dude.
Yeah, definitely.
It was so creepy. It made me afraid of going into a haunted attraction, but for a different reason. I didn't want to go to the wrong one, and then it have like a serial killer
right
at the end. But this film, The House is October Built, this one was directed by Bobby Rowe and then written by Zach Andrews, Bobby Rowe, and Jason Zada, which is interesting because Zach and Bobby are actually in the film as well. They're playing themselves, followed by their co-stars Brandy, the only girl in the film, Mikey, Jeff, and I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So they're playing themselves, or at least their names, and they're going across like the country or something, trying to find a haunted attraction. But they're looking to get like one that's like extreme.
Yeah, they're looking for the best one they can possibly find.
Yeah, and
ultimately.
That's already kind of like, oh shit, all right, I suppose. But this film, like, it was fun to watch because again, it's like you're watching this and these people are so like just it's like watching a home movie.
Yep.
Because of how they are with each other. They're like, oh, we're just
actually, yeah, it was very like I know we've talked about this already, but this cast, it was incredibly natural. Like you believe you were watching something that a friend recorded on his phone. Mm-hmm. Like they played off each other so well, and it was just very smooth and natural, like I said.
Yeah. So like as above, so below. That was like Hollywood acting.
Yeah, definitely.
And House is October Built. That was very like the Blair Witch.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. It was very so genuine, dude. It was very genuine. And that just kind of gave it that more authentic feel, which was great. I think this kind of film needs it because a lot of people have been to haunted attractions. They like going, and so to see this film and be like, "Oh fuck, can you imagine that shit happening to you, man?
Yeah.
That's nuts." So these 5. Wait, is it 5? So
four of them.
What?
I thought it was.
Well, we got Brandy, Zach, Bobby, Mikey, and Jeff. Okay, yeah, it is 5.
It is 5.
So you got these 5 people, and they're going across in their RV and stuff, and they find this girl who we don't know her name, but she's referenced in the movie as Porcelain, or as at least in the cast.
Which, by the way,
Yeah.
we have a girl Fear Farm with that mask before this movie came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
And it's a dope ass mask.
It is, dude.
And I saw it in this movie, and I was like, yes, it reminds me more of Fear Farm.
But dude, so they go to this haunted attraction, one of them, and they see this girl like in the background, and then they leave. They go somewhere else, like a state away, and she's there.
She's there again.
She's there again, dude, and it's just so trippy, man. They start getting followed by certain
Haunters.
Haunters, there we go. So I guess they start getting chased or followed anyway by certain haunters to the point where they're looking outside their RV and there's like an army of them.
Yeah.
Oh, hell no.
If I remember correctly, I don't know if this was in this one or the second one, but it's Haunters, a group named Blue Skeleton. And I think it's with this movie. I think it's the same group because the sequel, they encounter kind of similarities to this one. But yeah, it's like a group of haunters that are seemingly murderous, and they're like kind of after them. And it's like they're facing this actual horror. Like they got what they asked for, but it was far more actually than what they expected.
Yeah, they got their extreme haunt, but it was crazy beyond belief. And but they go through states through multiple states, and they still get followed by these
Yeah.
haunters. And at one point, oh shit! At one point, they're at like this like little festival kind of thing,
Yeah.
and then one of the characters, I forget which one it was, but he's going down an alley, following who he believes is one of his friends, and he goes down an alley where he's just the person he's following is gone, and then he looks behind him to the mouth of the alleyway, and it's a couple of hunters, and they're walking towards him. And he looks back the other way, and that's surrounded too. And I'm thinking, like, dude, there's people on the other on the street who are just having fun partying and shit, and they're not seeing this. Like, help is right there, and you can't get to it. And I don't know what really happens, but does he get stabbed or something?
I can't remember. No, I don't think he gets stabbed. I think something happens, but they don't really ever get like fatal wounds or anything like that.
Okay.
But just at the end, they end up getting
buried. Yeah.
Alive.
So each one of them, they get like their RV gets taken over by these haunters, and they each get kidnapped. They get like a duffel, not a duffel, but what do you call that?
Those sacks that they put over their heads.
Yeah, so they
like in movies when people get kidnapped.
Right, exactly. And which happened to them. They got kidnapped, and they each got separated into their own haunts, into their own houses, and they're going through it all and trying to get it. They all have their own cameras on them. Like they gave the hunters gave them their cameras, and they're going through their own personal haunts, and it's fucking terrifying, dude. Because now it's just you, and there's no barrier between you and the haunter.
Yeah.
So now it's like all fuck, I don't know what I'm saying. It's all just free for all. It's a free for all pretty much going on there. And that shit's so terrifying, dude. Like, okay guys, I'm done.
But you can't at that point they were way too far into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the biggest reasons why I loved it so much was because the acting of the haunters actually was very similar to how they actually are at Fear Farm or 13th Floor.
I wonder if they got like actual.
I think they might have, dude, because like the way they behaved, it was very haunted attraction-esque.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But dude, I loved it, man. It just felt good to me. It was such a Halloween movie.
It was, dude. It was really good. Gave you that vibe. So definitely watch that during Halloween time. It puts you in the mood. It's really weird to say that because it's terrifying if you're in that situation, but it puts you in the mood anyway.
Like you want to go to a haunted attraction after watching the movie.
Yeah, exactly. The thing though that at the end of it though, when they're all getting buried, I think they're getting buried next to each other in the same plot of land, and there's a moment where they, I think they're earlier before all this shit happened. They're replaying an earlier footage of them interviewing a haunter, and the haunter he says something that kind of makes sense to what we're seeing. He's like, yeah, when you're doing this, like, feels like you can just do whatever you want, be whoever you want, and you can get away with it. That's the kind of thing he's saying. That makes sense. Like these people, they're like I guess it's their own way of like getting out their, I guess, frustration or anger, something they realize, and then this is like the mask they can put on to do whatever the fuck they want, and they took that opportunity.
Absolutely.
So that made sense. I like that they put that in there, dude.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, but they did win best feature length film from the Midnight Extreme category from the Sitges Film Festival back in 2014, which I think is when this came out. So they won an award, which is well deserved, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I enjoyed it. Definitely one of my favorite found footage films. I loved it.
Yeah, fucking great, dude. Loved it. Speaking of favorite found footage films, my favorite found footage is I love all of them, but my favorite is Quarantine. I actually really liked it, dude.
Quarantine, man.
I think it's if someone said like they didn't like Quarantine, I'd get that. Like I'm not. It's not the best film ever made, by no means. I really liked it. It was really interesting because it wasn't zombies.
No, it was a form of rabies.
Right, like this kind of super rabies almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it follows Jennifer Carpenter. I was trying to look at her name up.
As
But it
Angela.
follows Jennifer Carpenter as Angela and her cameraman Scott, played by Steve Harris, and they're, taking a tour with like the fire department and stuff, and they eventually get a call to a apartment building because of this woman who's like being fucking crazy. And so they go into this apartment building where they find this woman. They go up to like the fourth floor or something. They find this woman with the police department, like a couple of police officers, and she's like, when they shine the light on her, she like screams, and they're like, "Hey, don't fucking do that!" 'Cause, like the cameraman, like,
Hey, don't.
no, best not. And so they eventually see that she's got like fucking blood on her nightgown, and it's fucking nuts because so the cameraman, he keeps shining the light, I think, and he like keeps fucking up with their like little operation, and the one of the police officers, he looks back at them like, get away, like get out of here. And when he's looking away, she like takes that opportunity to just jump on him and like bites his neck, and like the piece of flesh that gets caught in her teeth, like that snaps from her teeth to his neck, is like, oh, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? That hurt, dude. That hurt to watch.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely. And then after this incident, they realize that they're quarantined by the CDC. And they can't get out. They're stuck in this old apartment complex, and they're kind of screwed at this point. It's just a matter of time before, they fall to these insane people that are murderous and, just have lost their minds due to the disease that's been spreading.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I when I first watched this movie, it had all this hype behind it, and rightfully so. I ended up absolutely loving every second of it, even the ending, which a lot of people hated, and I understand why. It was just, I get it, but
Yeah.
but for the most part, for me at least, I actually really enjoyed it. I feel like I might have even seen it with you at some point.
At some point, yeah. I remember watching it back in California, but we at one point watched it. This one is actually directed by John Eric Dowdle again, and written by him and his brother Drew Dowdle, who also did As Above, So Below. So they kind of stepped up their game. They kind of well into the found footage type of style. But the film, they had this case where like one of the family had a dog who had bronchitis that kind of spread throughout. So this dog was taken to the vet, and like all the other animals started reacting violently. So when this disease kind of spread throughout the apartment building, people were getting infected, and they were turning in a matter of minutes. And man, it was just nuts to see, because like shit just hits it just escalates so fast. How everyone, like, one by one, they each started fucking dying, dude. And that last scene, I had to like really look into it, because there was something in that final scene where they're exploring the attic to try to get out, and they're seeing it. Before, it was mentioned that someone had lived there, but they hadn't seen them in weeks or months. And so they go up there, and it's like a crazy looking place where there's like newspaper clippings on the wall and shit like that. And I think pretty much what was happening was that this resident who lived there was creating like a super virus, an end of the world virus, because he was part of a cult. So he was developing this super virus, and I guess he got hit with it because he's the monster that's in there. And what I like about that is that throughout the whole film, when there's like the zombie thing, they fight it. they struggle to fight it,
Yeah.
like each one. But this last scene, it's in the dark. They're using their night vision, and they're like, it's to the point where it's like, yo, it's not just a zombie, it's a zombie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's scary because they're so vulnerable to it. One of the things I never understood though, that was never explained, was when they look up to like the attic part of the attic, the cameraman's like swinging around and he sees that kid. Did you remember that?
Yeah.
Who the fuck is that kid?
He just found his way into the set. Like, he wasn't part of the movie. And then they reviewed the tape. Like,
let's keep it.
I don't feel like filming it again.
But they never explained that. They never said why that kid was up there or anything. It's like, yeah, let's just add a kid there for a jump scare. What?
Yeah.
You didn't need it.
It wasn't even that much of a jump scare anyway.
It wasn't. But it ends up like they make a noise, and then trying to escape, and then the zombie like looks at them somehow in the dark and jumps on what's his name, Scott, and Angela's there like on her hands and knees just trying to crawl through until she finds like the camera, and then she sees like this thing is fucking eating Scott's neck.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, dude! And then she does the whole like like she gasps, and then the thing looks at her, and it comes at her with like a hammer, dude. Right?
Yeah.
Fucking with the hammer, and it like gets jumbled up in the mess where the camera falls and it's aiming at her. The thing that I don't understand though is like, so they had like a little skirmish. She falls down, the camera's aiming at her, and then just the thing is nowhere to be seen. It's not there. It's not making any noise. So it attacks her. And it's like, okay, I'm just gonna be over here, waiting. Like, what are you doing?
Hands on hips and everything. Just. But yeah, that scene ended up being the poster for the actual film.
The poster, yeah. But that had a budget of $12 million. Had a grossed over $41.3 million. So that definitely saw its money back. It also has Jay Hernandez from Hostel, which was a nice little addition. He was a firefighter.
And now Suicide Squad, too.
Suicide Squad, yeah, exactly. So that, definitely he's making a name for himself there, and he's a good actor, so definitely a good addition. But yeah, I mean, that's, I'd say that's it for today, man.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
I believe so. We're kind of sick of talking to you guys at this point.
We're kind of sick of it. We're done. You guys aren't responding to us. No. Anyway, so there's a lot more found footage movies to cover. We're gonna do like a part 2 of this as well.
Absolutely.
Next time we'll be doing Grave Encounters.
Houses October Built 2.
Houses October Built 2.
Some other films, Paranormal Activity and whatnot.
Wreck.
So Wreck, yes, which is Spanish.
Spanish Quarantine.
The original version of it. But there's plenty of found footage to talk about. Obviously, we didn't want to cover it in one episode because that would be like a 4-hour episode.
Yeah.
And we're just not up to that.
Or no, and no car ride is that long unless it's out of state.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and end it here. Again, as always, comment, rate, share this episode. Let us know what you think about these films. What was your favorite part of these films? What did you guys think about the Blair Witch sequel? Like, there's a lot of mixed reviews out there, but just let us know what you guys think, and we'd be happy to hear from you guys. We'll be reading those comments here. But yeah.
That's it. This is, again, Adrian.
And, of course, your other host, Chris.
And this is the Horror Academy Podcast.
See you next time.